What's good, YouTubes? Steph here. Welcome to Theta Space. This time, I think I'm finally ready to rank all the Blue Oyster Cult studio albums. I've been a fan of BOC since 1985 or 1986 when I was in high school. Apart from Pink Floyd, I was late getting into rock music. It wasn't until about 1983 that I picked up on Yes, and not long after that I started listening to The Who and Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple and Rush. It took me a little longer to get into Black Sabbath, Ozzy, and Dio, and still longer to get into real heavy metal. I was almost a senior by that time. So I was put onto BOC by my best friend Jason Frampton, no relation, who played guitar in our garage band. When we were choosing cover songs to play, he brought in Don't Fear the Reaper, and from him I heard the Agents of Fortune and Club Ninja albums a lot. I think he might have also had Spector's Cultosaurus Erectus and Fire of Unknown Origin, going by references he made, but I don't remember hearing those albums until I bought my own copies later. I ended up collecting every studio album, plus all 3 live albums, up through Imaginos, all on vinyl. And while they were never my favorite band, Yes always held that particular honor. Still, I always thought very highly of them. I've seen them live 5 times, starting in 1988 and as recently as March of last year, 2023. And they deliver the goods every single time. I picked up the last album, The Symbol Remains, late in 2022, but it was only in the past 4 months or so that I finally listened to Heaven Forbid and Curse of the Hidden Mirror, so as to be able to do a proper ranking of all the albums from worst to first, and here we go. So starting at the bottom is Mirrors. I just don't like this album. It's the only release in the catalog that I actually dislike, except for The Vigil and maybe 1 or 2 other tracks that don't completely suck. Moon Crazy has kind of a certain charm to it. But while I had some difficulty ranking the lower half of this list, there's no question that Mirrors is on the bottom. Also, I'm generally not a fan of BOC's dumb songs about rocking out. They have a few of those. I can include Dr. Music in that group. I mean, even before I picked up Mirrors, I didn't even like that song on the Extraterrestrial live album. Next up, Curse of the Hidden Mirror. I like this album all right. It's a passable effort, and like I mentioned in my video picking my favorite deep cuts, I really like Out of the Darkness. Showtime is good too, but the rest is pretty mid. Next up, Agents of Fortune. Like Curse of the Hidden Mirror, this record has like 2 really good songs and a bunch of mediocre ones. ETI, or Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and The Reaper are the standout tracks. Although I also like Tenderloin and Morning Final and The Revenge of Vera Gemini. Next, Heaven Forbid. I like this album for Harvest Moon, of course, and also Cold Gray Light of Dawn, Still Burnin', and Power Underneath Despair. Come to that song. I think it's kind of funny that this album and Curse of the Hidden Mirror both have songs about a man getting out of prison and seeking revenge on the people who helped put him there. The main difference being that in Showtime, he's still in lockup and dreaming about what he's going to do. And in Power of Underneath Despair, he's already out and getting started on it. Then Cultosaurus Erectus. I actually don't think very highly of Black Blade, however much my Michael Moorcock reading teen self fanboyed over having a song about Elric and Stormbringer co-written with Moorcock himself. But there are some great tracks on here, like Deadline, Unknown Tongue, and Lips in the Hills. And I kind of dig the jazzy breaks in Monsters, too. Number 8, Fire of Unknown Origin, is another album with some good tracks and some mid-tier stuff. I don't really like the song Joan Crawford, but that's the only track that I disdain on this album. In the Strong Plus column, we got Burning for You, of course, along with Veteran of the Psychic Wars, Soul Survivor, Heavy Metal the Black and Silver, and Vengeance the Pact. Next, number 7, Spectors. The big dumb rock song Are You Ready to Rock is here, but I don't mind that one as much as most of the other ones. To its credit, this album has Golden Age of Leather, Death Valley Nights, I Love the Night, and the absolutely sublime Nosferatu. I know this is the album where Godzilla lives too, but it's not one of my favorites by the band. It's okay, but not great. Next up, number 6, The Revolution by Night. I don't like most of the back half of this album. Let Go is probably the worst of the big dumb rock songs. Dragon Lady and Feel the Thunder are just okay, and Light Years of Love is so bad that it should have been on Mirrors. But Shadow of California, Shooting Shark, Veins, and Take Me Away, those tracks straight up knock. And I even like Eyes on Fire, even though lyrically it's kind of an incel anthem, you know. I want to make out with her, but she sees me as just a friend. Fifth on my list, Blue Oyster Cult, the self-titled first album. It's almost a psychedelic rock record. It's kind of rough, but there are some diamonds here. Cities on Flame, Last Days of May, Before the Kiss, Screams, Workshop of the Telescopes. Lyrically, Cities on Flame might be considered the first of the big dumb rock songs, but when I listen to it, it just doesn't hit that way for me. I like every track on this album, although I'm on the Lamb But I Ain't No Sheep isn't as good as The Red and the Black on Tyranny and Mutation. And number 4, The Symbol Remains. They put this album out only 4 years ago, and it's much, much better than the 2 albums that came before it. A lot of great tracks on this one. The only one I really don't like is The Return of St. Cecilia. There are a few others that are pretty mid, but That Was Me, Box in My Head, Tainted Blood, Edge of the World, Nightmare Epiphany, Florida Man, all great tracks. And I think Fight is a perfect album closer. Last one, Turn Off the Light. Number 3, Club Ninja. Can't you feel my love for this record? No? Maybe it's just me, but I don't get why this album gets dragged by BOC fans. Guys, 2 words. Perfect Water. God, that track might be the pinnacle of the band's recording career, but I like pretty much every track on this album. White Flags, Dancing in the Ruins, Spy of the House of the Night, Shadow Warrior, Madness to the Method. We do have another big dumb rock song here in Make Rock Not War. And Beat 'em Up and When the War Comes are kind of goofy, but I still like them. Maybe the 80s style production turned people off, but I don't have any issue with it. Mirrors is still the only album that has production I can't stand. Second place, Tyranny and Mutation. This album is absolutely solid. None of these tracks are subpar. The Red and the Black improves on the earlier version from the first album, and in particular, the whole second side of the LP is just so underrated. Baby Ice Dog, Wings Wetted Down, Teen Archer, Quicklime Girl. How often did any of these songs get played live, if ever? I mean, all I know is that they never appeared on the 3 live albums I had, or in any of the 5 shows that I attended. My lowest rankings might be controversial, but I'm pretty sure that not many people are going to argue with my top pick. It's Secret Treaties, the 3rd and final album of the black and white period. Like the album before it, there are no weak tracks. This is the one with Astronomy, which is a much better song than Godzilla, The Reaper, or Burnin' For You. But isn't that kind of always usually the way? The big hits aren't necessarily the best songs on the album, but whatever. I don't know who makes those decisions. I just live here. I left Imaginos out of the rankings since it's arguably a BOC album in name only. It started as an Albert Bouchard solo album, and it ended up a Sandy Pearlman studio project with members of BOC and a raft of hired sidemen. But if I considered it a proper entry in the discography, I would probably slot it in between the debut album and Revolution by Night, numbers 5 and 6 respectively. And so that's my ranking of the BOC studio catalog. What do you think? I'm sure there are people out there who strongly disagree with some of my choices. Come at me in the comments. Also, please smash like if you up and hit the subscribe button and notification bell. They don't cost anything. I'll be back Saturday with another reaction and Wednesday next week with a review. See you then. Steph out. Peace.